Hello and welcome to the Alde and Flaneurs. Today we're in the wonderful village of Orford, out on the coast, on the east coast, and we're going to be heading in the direction on a river cruise towards Aldeburgh, and then heading back past Orford in the direction of Shingle Street, and then coming back finally to Orford. What you'd have seen in the early scenes of the vlog was the wild man, the merman of Orford. He's very much the symbol of this community. He dates back to the 12th century, but even almost a thousand years later, he's still very much the symbol of this place. Now, there's a number of stories around his legend. He was meant to have been found by fishermen who, as part of their daily catch, came across this hairy, mystical beast who wouldn't talk. Another story is that this wild man was dragged from the sea and was covered from head to toe in hair, like a typical woodwuss. And the woodwuss is something that can be seen in many of the churches along the coast here. Now, this being, this entity, was seemingly a mystical creature. Now, the fishermen brought him to land, and he was imprisoned in Bartholomew de Grand's recently built castle. While he was imprisoned in the castle, he underwent torture, but at the same time, they would often take him into the sea for exercise purposes. There were chains, ropes, so making sure that he wasn't going to get away. But after time, the guards became a little lax in their duties, and I believe that eventually he did escape. In the year 1200, the Abbot of Coggeshall documented the curious tale of the Orford wild man, and these are his words. As to whether this was a mortal man or some fish pretending human shape, or was an evil spirit hiding in the body of a drowned man, as can be read in the life of the Blessed Owen, it's not possible to be precise, the more so because so many wonderful things of this kind are told by many to whom they have happened. I know it's been well documented, but this part of the East Coast is really a coastline of mystery. We touched upon it in our vlog of last year when we walked from Bordsey to Shingle Street, and the story of Orford Ness has been told by many. We'll be exploring it in a small part today. It will be a very small part. We might come back here later to actually walk on the Ness itself, but we will go through some of the mysteries of the Ness, and there's also the Rendlesham Forest sightings. And these stories are out there. Now, I know a lot of you don't believe in them. Personally, around the Rendlesham sightings, I'm still to be convinced, and there are many people who are much more convinced than I am, but I'll leave it up to the viewer to make their own mind up. We're sailing in a northerly direction towards Aldeburgh. We'll soon be seeing the Quadroil at the mouth of the River Ore. That's where we started our walk in mid-January on that wonderful, cold but bright sunny day when we walked to Orford Ness and back. And we're looking in a southerly direction towards Shingle Street with the sun glistening on the water. And I am wondering why I'm on the boat here. I really would like to be in the water, and it looks a wonderful scene, but common sense has prevailed. I won't be swimming today. But these waters are really too good to miss, and I'll be back perhaps later in the summer, and I'll try and perhaps swim between the Ness and Orford, though that might get me in a bit of trouble, but we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be a moonlight swim. That would really be fantastic. I mean, there is a bit of traffic here, so I do have to use whatever common sense I have, and I really don't have much anyway. Orford has been a port and fishing village since the Middle Ages. It has a medieval castle built to overlook the River Ore, and a Grade 1 listed parish church, St Bartholomew's. The castle was built as a royal castle by Henry II, in the end of the 12th century. In the medieval age, the port of Orford had more importance and more trade than nearby Ipswich, and Henry III granted its first charter, and the town returned a Member of Parliament in 1298. On our right hand side we'll see Orford Ness. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the Ness today because I'd like to come back. If you want to see a video about Orford Ness, then I suggest you go to John Rogers. He visited the Ness last October, I think, on the last day that visitors were allowed on the Ness, and that's a really good video, well worth watching. But the Ness was purchased by the Royal Flying Corps, later the RAF, in 1913, just pre First World War, and it's here where they conducted crucial experiments and trials. I think the first thing like bombing, how high a pilot could fly, all those things, what was the atmospheric conditions, what the effect of cold when flying at altitude. All these experiments were really useful for early flying technology. Since World War II, and then after World War II, the Cold War taking place, this place has taken on a significance and a mysticism almost parallel to Bletchley Park. Now, I don't think anybody really knows what's gone on here. A lot of the work hasn't been released under the Official Secrets Act and may never be known accurately. But from what I believe, and I'm reading from a book called Most Secret, The Hidden History of Orford Ness by Paddy Hazel, from 1953, atomic weapons research established and used as a testing range for British nuclear bombs. And in 1967, the world's most powerful radar station, Cobra Miss, was constructed for the US Department of Defense, and I believe it was operational until the 70s. And why it was closed down is just one of the many Orford Ness mysteries. Now, it's been owned by the National Trust since 1993, and I believe the towers are under the ownership of the BBC. As I said, I'm not going to talk too much about it. As I said earlier, please refer to the excellent John Rogers, who is no relation, by the way. I need to correct that statement about the BBC. I believe that in the last decade, the towers are now owned by Radio Caroline, so apologies there. For the geographers out there, Orford Ness is one of the longest shingle spits in the country. It compares with Spurn Head in northeast England and with Chesil Beach off the Dorset coast. Now, it's been formed from accumulation of longshore drift, material and shingle being drawn from the Norfolk coast and being deposited opposite the River Ore over many centuries. So it's very similar to our video from Bordsey to Shingle Street when we talked about this ever-changing coastline here, one of erosion in parts, especially near Bordsey, and one of deposition and accumulation as we saw at Shingle Street, and indeed what we're seeing now at Orford Ness. And I believe it's one of the most important areas of vegetative shingle in the world. On the Ness and nearby there is an abundance of wildlife and bird life. I'm not even going to go there in terms of calling out the bird life because I know nothing about it. A neighbour of mine in the next coming weeks will be doing some tours of Havergate Island, and I'll be talking about that a little later in the vlog. I can hardly tell the difference between a robin and a pigeon, to be honest with you. But I know a lot of you out there are keen and knowledgeable ornithologists, and if that's your thing, then this is a really good place to come and view bird life, much as you would do if you were slightly further up the coast at Minsmere. And that's all I will say for the time being, because I am completely out of my comfort zone. The Ness was home to the Orford Lighthouse until 2020, when Nature and the Sea reclaimed it. So, as I said, there's a lot of dynamic work happening on this part of the East Coast. We can now see one of my favourite buildings on the East Coast and in Suffolk, the famous Quad Royal on the mouth of the River Ore by the North Sea. And as I said, we visited here and got some close-up shots on a very cold but sunny day in the middle of January this year. But it's nice to be back with a very different feel for the day. We're in the 80s today, it's really quite warm. But a great sight, I think you'd agree. We've had a very interesting talk from our captain about coastal defences on the east coast, about planned retreat, where the Environment Agency is allowing places to become flooded, naturally flooded, so that will ease the pressure on the coastal defences elsewhere. And while we've been sailing and seeing the spit, his concern was that you actually do see quite a few breaches of the seawall on Orford Ness, and obviously there is a worry and a concern that might have an impact on flooding on the east coast here, especially with rising water levels and the possible impact of global warming. Again, I know some of you won't believe in the concept of global warming, but I think I'm right in saying it's something we should, certainly coastal defence should be concerned about. We've now turned around and we're heading back in the direction of Orford. To our right we can see Havergate Island. This was purchased by the RSPB in 1947, so it's celebrating its 75th anniversary this year. And as I mentioned earlier in the vlog, a neighbour of mine that I happen to see on my morning walk often is doing talks here through the month of August. For details, please go to the RSPB website. I believe they're taking the RSPB boat from Orford Quay over to the island, and I'm sure it's well worth a visit. Normally when I see my neighbour on my morning walk, as I mentioned, we don't talk about bird life. We did say there was some swifts nesting at the end of the street, but we talk football. He's a big Sunderland fan, has been a Sunderland fan for over 60 years, and I support Ipswich Town. Last season we were both in Division 1, we're still in Division 1, but Sunderland have been promoted. On a more serious note, we'll be very soon turning back down the other channel of the River Ore and heading back towards Orford. And on our left hand side we can see the confluence of the Butley River with the River Ore, Butley being famous for its oysters. And very soon on the right hand side you will see the famous pagodas of Orford Ness, which were specially built, I believe, to withstand bomb blasts, in the sense that the building would collapse on itself and that those underground would be unharmed. I think that's the explanation anyway. And we can see a Thames spritsail barge. Always nice to see one of those. A common sight along the rivers of the east coast. And we're now almost back at the beautiful village of Orford. Thank you very much for joining us on this voyage on the Lady Florence. We've had a great time, we've had a nice meal as well, met some good people and just enjoyed the magnificent vistas and views. Slightly envious that I wasn't able to get into the water, but there will be sure the time over the next few months that I can do that. But I hope you've enjoyed it. We're now going to head home. And look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you very much and goodbye. We're just going to stop off at the Jolly Sailor for a well-earned drink. Well, it's not really well-earned, but I always say that. But we're going to stop there anyway. So thanks once again.